Before we even begin with anything entertaining, I'm recording this sat on the floor, because let me just, that's what my chair sounds like. Oh, yeah, and also I'm gonna have to dump a metric ton of disclaimers, so let's get them done with quick. 1. I'm incredibly sorry if I removed your response. Whilst a few removals were very clear cut, with them being day-old accounts or ones frequenting sex chat subs, there are a large number of accounts that I couldn't find due to them being typed incorrectly on the original form, and also a large amount of people that just had very barren accounts. I really do appreciate if you were a teen who did this survey, but I'm just so paranoid about any suspicious individuals getting past that even after my efforts, I have a feeling something will slip through the cracks. Secondly, I apologise in advance if you ended up on this survey against your will. I completely forgot that someone could troll by just putting another person's name in, and as much as it would help with the filtering, I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable if I try to get personal information off of them to confirm that they really are a teenager and the owner of their account, so I had to compromise some security for accessibility. Finally, I really hope none of you are actually coming into this with the intention of getting a relationship. As I stated in my original post, this was only meant to be for a bit of fun. I did not want any of you actually attempting to come on to whoever I paired you with. Besides that, however, some of you did take it a little too seriously, stating your sexuality, asking specifically for men or women, etc. And it's like, did you not read the text box? Let me put it in a way you can understand. Gender, for the most part, is a fairly unique thing. Whilst yes, I would say there's nothing wrong with someone considering themselves to be 20% male, 75% female, and finally 5% non-binary, that is 100% not a common occurrence. So when someone comes in here asking exclusively for women, they aren't asking for a 50% woman, 23% man, 27% gender fluid. They want a 100% female. And unfortunately, there's no way I can consistently give that. And to add to that, the user base of Reddit and r/teenagers is particularly male oriented, but a majority of them are heterosexual. So what does that mean? I never wanted to match you with the intention of dating the other person in the first place. I stated it was for fun. Those of you that specified what gender or sexuality or anything you were looking for made my life a pain, because not only do I not know what genders people are because I didn't ask, but there also just isn't enough to go around. Truthfully, I don't think I should have accommodated for it, but I still tried my best to match you with what you asked for when I could. Either way, to those of you that listened and didn't specify anything, thank you for allowing me to match us on our diverse personalities. Oh yeah, and to any of you who genuinely thought this was an opportunity to get a girl/boyfriend, what are you doing? Go outside and talk to people or something. I know I can't say much. I appreciate you're desperate, but if you unironically think Reddit is where you're going to find true love, you've really got to get a reality check. And on really obvious final note, I will be displaying some people's usernames on here. Don't go out of your way to harass them or something. This form was all for fun, not worth being abusive to someone else over. Anyway, past the serious stuff, let's get on with the blah 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 matchmaking ceremony. In total there was originally 237 responses. I had to remove 52, which left us with an odd number of 185, so that means there is one unfortunate loner at the end. Albeit, maybe you can all be their friend. Show them a little pity in these trying times. I would also like to mention, because I do not know your genders, I'm going to try always say they or them, etc. But knowing me, I'll accidentally default to he a few times. If that happens and I'm wrong, it's not with the intent to be mean or anything, it's an honest mistake. Now, before you get any of the matches, oh boy, let me go through my hell of matching you all up in a cliche explanation with fast panicked music in the background whilst I artificially hyperventilate. So to begin with, I had to sift through all of your names. I manually typed them all one by one into Reddit, removing the ones that didn't pop up or ones I didn't recognise. Not only that, but sometimes I had to manually ask people if they want to be a part of it, as I was worried someone else to put them in there. Next, I saw this massive Google sheet full of names and info, and I had no idea what to do with it. I colour-coded stories of people's answers to make it easy to match them, and I'd find things that people were exactly shared, only to find that they were both completely different from each one, except for that one answer. So then I tried to follow opposites track, but Sign has already proven it wrong. So now I panicked and thought, what do I do? What do I do? Everyone's going to be disappointed in me. This is a disaster. I've made a fool of myself. So as best as I can, I started matching people up with one similarity or maybe two, and then I got halfway through and realised that I forgot to remove some people that didn't have usernames. So I had to go back and clear all of those so they wouldn't corrupt the form. On top of all of that, I then had to manually type every single match into a PowerPoint along with reasoning and strengths, so I have something to send to every single one of you. And so all of you can be slightly appeased. And all of it was just so incredibly boring because I felt like none of the matches actually worked. So I spent a lot of time procrastinating, choosing to lie in bed and pass out rather than sit at my PC to match the rest of you up. Even up to the point I was doing this a bit at school just because I didn't want to waste any more of my free time match you all up. Don't get me wrong, I love doing this. The editing, the video making, that's the fun bit, but holy shit, I did not expect my work to be this cut out for me, and I'm broken. I'm so goddamn done. Live from Matching People Update Me. Me is in the version of me. I would just like to formally apologise. Because I realised that with around 55 matches to go and 110 people,
is becoming exceedingly difficult to find people that are similar, and I think the lesson I've learned is that we are all incredibly different people. So I apologize from this point onwards if your final like message with like your result and your partner is like 2 words long and you're matched based off one tiny little thing. I've tried my best, but like I do apologize. I think I'm reaching the point where it's becoming exceedingly difficult to find actual things to match people on. But I don't want to leave anyone out. I want everybody to have somebody to talk to, because that's what you're here for. Anyway, thank you.
Alright, cliche panic sequence terminated. You've probably experienced that millions of times if you've been on the internet longer than a year. Anyway, to summarise it all up, I basically matched you all up on single answers. Strong was awarded to people that had an answer that matched directly in one of the unique answer categories, and a few minimal similarities. Mid was awarded to those that matched up fairly closely in the discrete answer categories. Weak was awarded to those that had very few matching categories, but I needed to throw them together with someone. And abysmal are people who are nothing alike. However, maybe I'll end up proving opposites attract is true. I think the reality in all of this is going to be that of something like those TV dating shows, when relationships are somewhat forced for entertainment, kind of like Love Island or something, or at least I'm guessing because I'd never bring myself to watch it. Those friendships/relationships, as far as I'm aware, don't last, but I'd be glad to hear from anyone that has theirs last more than a single conversation. Now let's get cracking. Now to start with, a fairly unsurprising fact. Yeah, most of the people who took it are single. None of you, however, were not. You lot can be considered the lucky ones, albeit nothing particularly to note here. I'm gonna be real, I just wanted to ask this question to everyone. I didn't actually match anyone using it. Results wise, I'm actually pleasantly shocked by the fact that above 50% was in the positives. I would have thought the middle ground would be most voted for, as that is typical in these responses. Now, I had to take people's personalised answers too and change them into what I believe it was closest to. So after a bit of sorting, the results were 7 people absolutely despise their parents. I'm not going to assume why, but to those of you suffering, I can't really say much more than stay strong. 22 dislike theirs, but they have their positive moments. 50 considered their parents average, 85 considered theirs to be good with a few bad moments, and 21 unconditionally love theirs. I say this adds up though. As time passes, it is a positive that things such as physical punishment and other malicious means of discipline are becoming illegal, and whether your parents resist the urge to do it, or never would have considered it in the first place, it makes it easier for us to love them. However, there is obviously still the sick people that continue to do it regardless. I'm fortunate to not count myself as a part of that, but anyone awful enough to think physical or mental harm is the correct way to teach a child, you clearly shouldn't be parenting. This turned out to be another filler question because I realised that you don't really need to both be a video game player to have a good connection with someone. Regardless, 161 gamers, 24 non-gamers. Nothing to analyse here. Being on the internet generally means you have some exposure to gaming culture, and most of us a lot of it. You lot really let out your creative side on this one. I was honestly expecting everyone to chuck in about 20 words and call it a day, but some of you wrote entire novels. For this section I tried to categorise them in a way that made sense, but there is a lot of categories. The only 2 I really need to mention beforehand is funny and other. Funny is completely subjective. What I find funny, someone else may not. And other is basically a categorisation for things that either displayed no real emotion, or just didn't fit a category at all. So without further ado, here is the categories and statistics. Happy short is obvious what it means, and 25 people wrote stories of the sort. Happy long is the same, just longer stories. Only 4 people wrote these. Sad short is also a given, 16 people wrote them. Sad long was written by 5 of you. Death short was not for sad stories, so to speak, but ones that usually contained a sudden quick death. Anyway, 10 of you put your characters through quick deaths. Death long was for more drawn out stories that still ended in death, and 6 of you did that. Other, you're already aware what it is, and 75 of you fell into that bracket. Nonsense was just nonsense, and 6 of you liked to be nonsensical, and I found 38 of you to be funny. One thing of small note is that only 14 of you actually included Once Upon a Time in your stories. Either school has forced into our brains that the opening is boring, or we have all become sick of it, and also because half of you didn't even write a story as such, but I'm gonna pretend I don't know that. I honestly thought there would be more sad stories, but I guess not. People were either considerably emotionless or tried to be funny. I guess maybe people weren't feeling too much like dumping something depressing into a survey box. This was one of the sections I classified as a no-go kind of category. I would not match up someone who put strongly agree with someone who said strongly disagree unless I absolutely had to. They usually had to share a decent few other similarities for me to consider it, because I didn't want to risk someone becoming unhinged and absolutely roasting the shit out of some poor soul that just isn't a fan of being offensive or edgy. Anyway, I don't feel like reading more numbers, so I'm just going to slap them all on screen. Sorry to any blind people. My very obvious conclusion is just be yourself, I guess. If you think all offensive jokes are bad, that's fine. If you think all jokes are okay, that's fine too. As long as we can all respect each other's boundaries, it doesn't really matter in the end. This was my other super specific do not match category, with this taking even higher priority than the jokes one. I think, without a doubt, you can agree that political debates are some of the most heated and generally world-threatening debates out there, and frankly, no one wants to have them with someone you're trying to be friends with. So with that being said, I absolutely refused to put anyone that had differing opinions together, unless they genuinely had other good matches, or I had to as there was no other options left. And I'm confident in this choice, as I left the "my political opinion won't affect my relationship" option for a reason. So as far as I care, these are people that would not be able to control themselves with someone who disagreed with them. Anyway, most of you don't give one about politics, I don't really blame you. Then some of you did give one about politics. Honestly, this category is boring. Number time, 99 don't care, 38 said it doesn't affect them, 27 lib left, 9 centre, 5 lib right, 4 auth left, and 2 auth right. I say this pretty much matches up with Reddit and what teenagers usually agree with in politics. I mean, to vomit up the stereotypes of the compass, I'd say Twitter user pretty accurately describes the teenager sub. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of movies, but this is one of the main things I matched you up on, due to the fact that this was a completely opinionated question. There isn't really many stats to show you, so instead I attempted to compile the most common answers. The most popular answer, given by 15 very unique and original people, was Morbius. Star Wars saw selection from 8 individuals, some a specific episode and others the whole series. Only Shrek 1 and 2 were present because they're the best ones by far, and together they managed to total 7 choices. One movie I am both shocked and incredibly pleased to see up here is Interstellar. It got an astounding 6 selections, honestly rather shocking for what I'd consider a fantastic movie with which I believed was underappreciated by teens. Lord of the Rings saw 4 mentions, not particularly astounding, but respectable, and so did all the Spider-Mans, totaling 4 as well. I realised that I didn't comprehensively list anything about this one, so I got nothing to say about this question, honestly. My conclusion, at least 3 of you have probably consumed food at some point in your life. Despite having very little to say about it though, I still matched a lot of you up on it as it was an opinionated category. Haha, funny sex category. Okay, immaturity aside, people on average were incredibly less kinky than they were horny, which makes sense for a sub full of overly thirsty teens. However, there was a decent few more people who put 5 for kinkiness than those that put 5 for horniness. God damn. Due to the emojis not being a part of the English alphabet, it's kind of hard to determine what the most frequent one is because I can't sort from A to Z. Especially when people put multiple emojis.
Hello, this is editing blah 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 right now at 2 AM in the morning. And guess what I have just discovered? Emoji column. Sort A to Z. And oh, it works. You want to know what I did? I used this one, because with this filter button, if you sort A to Z here, it doesn't work. And I used the wrong one. And so I made it 10 times harder for myself, as you're about to see. So instead of taking responsibility like a normal person, I'm going to shift the blame on all of you lot for failing to follow instructions, and I'm definitely not an idiot that didn't think this through before. Regardless, I still counted them. So the top 4 were, in 4th place with 6 votes is the skull emoji. Okay, announcer voice over. 3rd place was a sweat smile with 8. 2nd place was a neutral face with 10. And once again, very original people, with 1st place being Moai. I'm not really that surprised. There once again isn't anything to analyse. I don't think a single song showed up more than twice. And most people that pick the same song, I instantly put them together. And whilst I know this isn't about me, if you're curious what I would have put, First Town of This Journey by Camellia.
Ah, the good old yes or no questions. I hope that some of you saw these and immediately knew what was happening here, but maybe you're all in the dark. Technically, this is probably the best determiner I have, but with only 8 theoretical outcomes and 185 of you, it would be a bit prejudiced to match you all up solely on this, so obviously I factored in other things. Being the absolute buffoon I am, I've forgotten what article I got the questions from, and by what dating app company they were written. But yeah, they surveyed a bunch of people and found out that if you had matching answers, there was a 1 in 3 chance you turned out to be soulmates. Now, I don't really believe in soulmates, and the fact that these questions are mostly a niche indicates it's likely a fallacy and purely meant to promote their shitty dating app. But hey, this is a shitty form, so I chucked it in there anyway. So what is the most common answers with teens? Well, if you want to have the best chance at getting a soulmate, you have to like horror movies, have never been to another country alone, and finally, do not take the option to go and live on a sailboat. Anyway, I'm literally the polar opposite of that, so I think that's a good indicator that there is no hope left for me. I hate that I've had to pull this so many times already, but you lot again were so incredibly diverse that honestly, there's no statistics or no funny joke I can make here. I believe that kindness was the most requested trait, and also the one portrayed by most people, which is a positive thing. But honestly, you all had such unique requests that there isn't really a clear winner here. Some of you were after personality things, other physical, and other mental. It's all just a clusterfuck of opinions, which I'm glad as it made some matches particularly unique. But it doesn't really serve me well here when I have to give everyone a whole rundown of the results, because I'm not just going to list every single answer. You'd be here all day. Oh boy, I'm excited to do this bit. Now I will state, a large majority of your stories were actually very entertaining to read, irregardless of their length or tone, etc. The ones I have highlighted here, however, are mainly funny ones, and also do not teeter on being too long. There is a few sad ones I would like to highlight as well, such as specifically gaming lizards, because they broke my Google Sheet to the point I had to put their response on a Word doc. None more needs to be said now. Time for a dramatic story reading. A selected 4 particularly noteworthy ones. Let's begin with you/Cardboard Squidward. One day there was a, and then they. The end. It's such a masterpiece. I'm brought to tears. Alright, next up would be you/Summer Sausage 05s. This is a decently long one, so sit back. Once upon a time, there was a man named Joe. Having no last name, he searched the land for someone he could spend the rest of his life with and not be ridiculed for it. He roamed and roamed the realm, but couldn't find anyone, man or woman or genderless person, who would accept the fact that he had no name. He went to his mother and asked, "What should I do? I fear there will be no one for me at the end of my whole life." And his mother ruffled his hair, looked into his eyes deeply, and said, "Perhaps not, but this is not where your value lies, my dear son. Your value does not lie in your lack of a name. It lies in the potential of what could be there in place of it. Why don't you think on that for a while?" Joe was awestruck. His mother seemed to empathize with his plight, but her words were lost on him. The potential of what could be. What could that mean? Years passed and turned to decades, and at the end of his life, he never found anyone to be with him. As he was closing his eyes for the final time, a voice rang out in his ears. "My son, you can't go yet." It was his mother, speaking to him. But how? She had passed long before his time had come. He asked her why, and she continued, "You must find the potential of what could be there." Suddenly, a woman walked into his room. She looked young, beautiful, and looked strikingly like him. "Hi there, sir. I believe I'm your niece, Joanna. Your brother, my father, passed recently, but he told me to come find you, for I have no last name. He said you'd be able to give it to me. So I was wondering, who is this person standing in front of me? Who's Joe?" Joe looked at her and smiled. He realized what he had to say. His niece looked at him with urgency, and he was on the verge of death, and so he uttered his final words. "Joe, Mama." Everyone clap your hands for that one. Truly a pioneer of creativity. Next is another nice short one, and I don't even think I can bring myself to read this one jokingly. And it's by you/Craze the Great. I took I'm laughing because I know what's coming up. You lot don't, because I haven't put it on the screen yet, but this is... Okay. I took 9 Viagra pills, then drove to a female yoga class, and went dummy. And finally, you/Elmo014. I don't really know what to write. I'll try though. Once upon a hot summer day, there were 3 brother mice that lived in a field of wild flowers. The first was big and strong. The second brother was wise beyond his years and brave. Everyone looked up to these brothers. However, the third brother was very small and inferior compared to his brothers. And when the other mice learned they were related, they all laughed. And the little mouse, let's call him Ronnie, was very sad. The end. Moral of the story, just because it's a big paragraph doesn't mean that it's interesting. You lot get the first 4 copies of the blah 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 seal of approval. Official artwork and authenticity still withstanding. Position of seal is an automatic agreement for all personal belongings of yours to go to the patent holder of the product. Now, as someone who has never had a relationship, I'm not going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about. However, I'm going to list the duos that I think may work out the best. This is in no way a guarantee. Do not hold me against my word. The first Power Couple award goes to Bullet Dodger and Magic Steve. Even though they didn't actually have that many similarities, they both had a very strong connection through their love for frogs, and I hope that they can share their froggy affection with one another. My second Power Couple award goes to Chunky Gumby and Gaming Lizard 99. The both of them honestly wrote really nice stories. Unlike everyone else, I actually felt something reading theirs. Gaming Lizards, as I mentioned, broke my Google Sheet, and it's too long to read here. Either way, they both have some clear finesse in the ways of literature. My third and final Power Couple award goes to Hot Rock 3000 and Coconut Cane. Unlike the other two, I'd say that they didn't really have an incredibly similar connection that made them as obvious. However, these two were generally the same in the discrete categories, and also wrote stories that ended up in mysterious deaths. How wholesome. Now it's time to reveal the poor soul that didn't get anyone. In my honest opinion, I'm actually quite disappointed it turned out this way for them, because they chose to go shitposting and made a pretty great one, and that person would be u/redyosh98. What did they do that makes me pity him? Well, for every single answer, they put Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul references and jokes, and in my opinion, there was no better response I could have asked for. It was hilarious, and what I was really looking for in this form, really bad shitposting. This was never a serious form. Like I said, a few took it a little too seriously, no name calling, and in the end it was just for a bit of fun. Either way, go give the guy or girl or non-gendered some love, because they deserve it. I mean, I'll admit, however, there is actually one secret 186th person that I could have matched with them, but they did not leave their username. As for that person's answers, I'll let you just see for yourself. You know, I won't even narrate them. I'll give them justice with a classical piece and a calming backdrop. I realise that this video is not as analytical as my last two. I will say that's partial to what this one is trying to accomplish, but I do apologise if you come here for the statistics. I do really appreciate everyone who partook, and there is more stuff coming up, which does allow me to announce this. To my extreme shock, people are actually interested in the Discord idea, which makes me incredibly happy. So just in case some of you change your mind, or 2 random viewers that happen to stumble upon this in their recommended now want to participate in some of my future endeavours, please consider joining. Oh yeah, and I'm going to be honest, but I got to start doing this. If you genuinely, and I mean genuinely, enjoy what I've done here, please do sub. I say this because I don't use the subs as like a measurement of trying to be popular, but just seeing some positive validation. It really is that small push that helps give me the motivation and the strength to keep doing this. Proves that I'm succeeding at entertaining you all. I chucked all these notices at the end for obvious reasons. I know growing YouTubers like to throw sub requests and smashing the like button at the starts of videos, etc. I get that it's likely more effective, but I don't want to be in your face about it. I'll let you enjoy my content if you do actually like it, and I'll ask at the end. It's just a little bit more polite. So what kind of person do you need to be if you want the best chance at getting with someone as a teen? Well, from a statistical standpoint, you need to not be in a relationship already, obviously, have consistently good parents, enjoy video games, write boring stories, have a neutral opinion on jokes, give nothing about politics, think Morbius is the best movie, or Star Wars for a non-ironic answer, eat food, be somewhat horny and somewhat kinky, use the moai emoji frequently, or neutral face for an unironic answer again, like music, answer yes no no to the soulmate quiz, and be kind. And now you're starting to see the flaws. We're all different people. A statistically average person is great and all, but that's not what anyone in reality is looking for. We all have something we want to see in another person, and it would be boring if we were all the same. People often say that you should be yourself to get with someone, but I think that the sentiment is slightly wrong. I think the reality is, yes, you should change the worst aspects of yourself for the better. Never change who you are, but instead aspire to become a better person, one that you would be happy to be. Now, obviously, don't make a drastic change and pull a complete personality switch. Just make the small differences that matter to you, the small differences that differentiate the unkind from the caring. That way, instead of your wingman friend that just happens to get with everyone telling you that to get with someone, you just need to be yourself, you should be able to walk in there, head held high, because you aren't being yourself, you are yourself, and you should be goddamn proud of it.